Hey, MCARBO brother, I'm Chris Nelson, President of MCARBO. Really excited to introduce the new Remington RM380 trigger spring kit for your great little Remington concealed carry pistol. Really love how we were able to reduce the trigger pull on this thing. It was starting out at a 7-pound trigger pull. We got it down to 4 and some change, so about a 2-pound reduction, 30% trigger pull reduction. Really impressed with it. Let's get on our tabletop, put this baby in. Before we get started, let's go ahead and check our firearms together, make sure they're clear. Check the chamber, check the bolt face, check the magazine well. This firearm's clear. Parts and tools needed for this build: the Remington RM380 trigger spring kit by MCARBO includes a lighter hammer spring, lighter firing pin spring, and a lighter trigger return spring, a Torx T7 key, hammer, 1/16 inch punch, 3/32 inch punch, 1/8 inch punch, bench block. As always, guys, make sure we're in iPro. Let's see what kind of factory trigger pull we're starting with. 7 pounds, 0.3 ounces. Let's take one more to confirm. 6 pounds, 12.9 ounces. All right, we get started with a basic field strip. What we're gonna do is just pull it back far enough so we can see that pin right there, that takedown pin. And then we're gonna go on the other side with our 1/16 inch punch and push it right out. See that little hole right there? Push it right out. Pin falls right on the tabletop, there it is. Go ahead and set that aside, just smooth pin all the way around. And we just slide right off. All right, here it is. We can remove our guide rod and recoil spring, set that aside, pop our barrel right out, put that aside. Now we're gonna replace this firing pin spring real quick before we move on to the frame. Let's go ahead and set that aside. And it's real quick and easy on this firing pin spring. We're gonna need our Remington RM380 trigger spring kit by MCARBO. Go ahead and get that spring out. Might be handy to save these bags. All right, here it is. So a set of custom springs right here. Go ahead and take our firing pin spring. This is the thinnest spring. All right, we'll set the other two aside for a second. All we gotta do is position our slide like this on the tabletop, take our 1/16 inch punch, push down on the firing pin back there. All right, this is why you wanna be wearing iPro. Keep your finger over top of it because this thing's under tension. And we're just gonna slide that plate forward. All right, and you can see this is the orientation right here of that plate. So you got this little curved portion right here. It's gonna be facing up like that, right? And this is gonna slide right in just like so. So we'll set that plate aside for a second, pull out on our firing pin, set that down. Now we can go ahead and slide out our firing pin spring. It's kind of a gold color, set that aside. Put in our lighter firing pin spring. Put the firing pin right through it like that. Drop it right in. Now we need to compress that. We'll take our 1/8 inch punch and just push it straight down. Definitely make sure you're wearing iPro here. You don't want to lose this. And remember we talked about the orientation. Remember we talked about the orientation of that little back plate? This is it right here. You'll notice on the other side there's a little dimple there. That's the side you want facing down. We want that little cutout on the non-ejection port side. Ejection port's right here. Cutout will be on the non-ejection port side. So we'll go ahead and get it set up. Slide it right in. Compressing that firing pin and pushing simultaneously. And once you get that little bite of it right there, grab your 1/16 inch punch and push it the rest of the way through. There's not enough meat on that 1/16 to really hold it down initially. And there you go. It snaps right in place. Good happy sound there that we got it right. Okay, so we're done with the slide. We can go ahead and just throw it back together if you like. Grab the barrel, throw the barrel on there. Grab the recoil spring and guide rod. Go ahead and position it in place. You want that guide rod to be able to go right through the slide up front. And that flat portion back there, resting right in that little notch on the barrel, a little snap in place. See, good snaps. All right, so there we go. So the slide's back together. Set that aside for a minute. Now we can go ahead and focus on the frame. Now for the longest part of the installation, just removing these grip panels here. I'm just gonna start on the left side, take your Torx T7. We're just gonna get these little Torx screws out. All right, got the first one out. Second one's out. Pull this little grip panel off. It's always good to take notice how everything's oriented as we're doing it. Grip panel. And here's your slide stop right here. All right, see how that's oriented? And then your little spring that's captured right there in the slide stop, just like that. So you can see how that little leg captures in that hole. Definitely want to make sure we replicate that. Don't need to pull the spring out, but if you do on accident, you can see the orientation right there. Right, got a much longer leg right here, a little short leg off that bend up top. Real easy. All right, to get that hammer spring out, we're going to have to pop that pin out. So we can't do much right from here. We're going to flip it over, remove these 3 Torx screws now. All right, got the first one out. You'll notice there's 3 on this side. All right, got all 3 out. Now we'll go ahead and remove the grip panel. And you'll notice the trigger hinge pin locates right there in that little recess on the grip panel. All right, that's what's unique about this one. So there's a trigger hinge pin there. Here's your trigger bar here. Trigger bars right here with your trigger return spring. This is a really complicated spring. Took us a minute to get this one right. So we'll go ahead and we'll pop out this spring, but just take notice how this long leg here locates in the frame, and this little short leg here locates on the trigger bar. So we just pop out the factory spring, we'll set that aside. We don't need to put the MCARBO spring in just yet because we got to go a little further. So we'll just pop out the trigger bar. All right, I'm just going to leave it like that. Grab our bench block, pop out this pin right here on the frame. Should be able to push it right through with your 1/16 inch punch. Just a solid, smooth pin. Set that aside. Now we're going to go ahead and place our finger on top of this hammer spring seat right here. It's plastic. Go ahead and pull out your 1/16 inch punch. Be under a little tension there. All right, pops right out. You can see that. This is universal, symmetrical on either side, so we're good. We don't have to worry about anything. Set that down. Now go ahead and just let your hammer spring just fall out just like that. And then your hammer spring guide right here. So that's going to be the portion that's going inside the frame. This is going to be the leading end right here. And you can see that guide just drops right in. That little divot right there on top is what locates inside. All right. So go ahead and replace this hammer spring with the MCARBO lighter hammer spring. We're just going to go ahead and do the same thing. Drop it in like that. Go ahead and slide it back in the frame. Make sure it locates on that extension right there for the hammer. Right? So we'll just push it right in. There, you can see it right there. It's locating inside that little divot. All right, now we're going to go ahead and drop in the hammer seat. Compress it. Take that little pin. Just push it right in. Just got to kind of put a little pressure on it. Feel your way through it a little bit. Might help. Take your hammer, give it a couple taps. There it goes. All right, our trigger just kind of popped out on us, not a big deal. All right, so we got our hammer spring back installed. Perfect. Now we can go ahead and get our trigger back in place. See, this is the trigger hinge pin here. So it just drops right in, smooth, same diameter all the way around. Drop our trigger right over that hinge pin. Then we need to locate that trigger bar with the lighter trigger return spring. So go ahead and get our trigger bar in place. Make sure it's capturing that sear back there. All right, now it's all staged and ready. Take our lighter trigger return spring. Go ahead and locate it properly, long leg up here in the frame. I like to put my finger there, index finger on that coil, and then just bend it up like this. And it'll snap right in that hole there. Perfect. All right, it's all together. And that tension will keep it all in place. And take our grip panel, we'll drop it right on. Make sure you locate that trigger hinge pin right there in that hole on the actual grip panel. All right. Take our little Torx screws, get them back in, and tighten them right up. All right, go ahead and make sure they're all good and snug. All right, flip it over. We're gonna do the same on the other side. Make sure you got that slide stop spring in place. Take your hammer and just give these little pins a tap. Make sure they're all flush. Then take your slide stop. This is the orientation right here. Make sure that spring locates right here in that little hole in the slide stop. Go ahead and drop it right in. All right, there it locates. Now we'll take that grip panel, make sure that slide stop lever locates in this little cutout on the grip panel. Drop that right in. Slides right on. And take your 2 Torx screws and put them back in. Pretty simple and straightforward installation. Now, I didn't do it in the demo, but I would highly recommend doing some blue 242 Loctite on the threads. It's removable, makes it easy. You don't have to worry about the screws backing out. If you don't have Loctite, just tighten them up good, and you're gonna have to check them all the time. But I'd recommend definitely putting the Loctite in these grip screws. Just makes it easy, straightforward. You don't have to worry about anything. Now all we gotta do is put the slide back on the frame, and we're good to go. Just make sure you got your recoil spring and guide rod, everything back in the slide. Take your slide, go ahead and position it on the frame, pull back a little bit till you can see that hole. We're gonna take our pin, we're gonna drop it right in, just like that, all right? Now, if it won't drop right in, try moving that barrel forward, backward a little bit so it'll fall right in place, but that should be it. Simple as that. All right, we'll do a quick little function check. Now we got it back together. Go ahead and pull the trigger. All right, make sure it resets, so we're holding it down. Trigger resets, beautiful. Man, that's a nice, clean pull. All right, let's measure this trigger pull. All right, let's see what kind of modified trigger pull we got. 4 pounds, 11.2 ounces. Let's take one more to confirm. 4 pounds, 10.9 ounces. Well, there you have it, guys. Nice 30% reduction for your Remington RM380. Much more predictable break at the end, cleaner, smoother. I love it, man. This is great for this little concealed carry pistol. Much more reliable. This is awesome. So 30% trigger pull reduction. We start out about 7 pounds, dropped it down just under 5. Really like it. Really impressed. Simple, easy, straightforward. No need to have a 7-pound trigger. Love it. Thank you, MCARBO Brotherhood, for your ideas and your support. And as always, happy shooting.